Emma Larson was 16 years old when the Town Council of Green River, Wyoming Territory, voted unanimously to expel her from settlement boundaries for spreading baseless fear about impossible winter severity, causing unnecessary panic and undermining community morale. It was September 18, 1876, and prediction of sustained -40-degree winter lasting 4 months by teenage girl claiming prophetic dream was considered dangerous alarmism, requiring immediate removal before harvest season anxiety turned to mass panic. The controversy began September 5th, when Emma told Sunday church gathering that she'd experienced vivid dream 3 nights earlier, showing coming winter bringing sustained extreme cold. Not brief cold snaps, but continuous -30 to -40 temperatures from November through February. Cold so severe and prolonged that conventional cabins couldn't maintain livable warmth even with constant fires burning. Families slowly freezing inside their own homes despite maximum heating efforts. Green River was established settlement founded 1872 by ranchers and farmers near Union Pacific Rail Line. Population approximately 200 people living in conventional log cabins and frame houses, adequate for typical Wyoming winters, with temperatures ranging from 0 to -20 during brief cold periods. Emma's family, Father Jacob and Mother Anna, had homesteaded nearby in 1874. Emma was an observant, quiet girl who helped with farm work and occasionally experienced vivid dreams she sometimes mentioned, but never claimed as prophecy until September 5th dream. She stood at church gathering explaining what she'd seen. 3 nights ago, I dreamed about this winter with clarity I've never experienced before. Saw sustained cold starting early November, temperature dropping to -30, then -40 and staying there for weeks. Saw our conventional cabins losing heat faster than fires could replace it. Saw interior temperatures dropping to 20 degrees despite burning maximum fuel. Saw families huddled in blankets beside stoves still suffering from cold, because cabin construction couldn't retain heat during extreme sustained cold. Dream showed clearly. Only homes built with massive thick walls and superior insulation can maintain warmth during prolonged extreme cold beyond normal Wyoming experience. Settlement leader William Peterson dismissed it immediately. Emma, you've had disturbing nightmare, not prophetic vision. Wyoming winters are cold. We experience -20 during January cold snaps, but -40 sustained for months is meteorological impossibility for this region. Even mountain peaks rarely see such extremes. You're frightening people about impossible scenario right before harvest season when anxiety is already high. But Emma persisted over following days explaining dream details to anyone who'd listen. Dream showed specific mechanisms. Conventional log cabin with 8-inch walls loses heat through wood conducting cold inward. At -40 exterior, heat escapes faster than typical stove can generate warmth. Only structures with 2-foot thick walls using non-conductive materials like earth and sod can provide enough insulation maintaining interior warmth during sustained extreme cold. Word spread through settlement. Some families took her seriously enough to ask questions about protective construction. Others dismissed it as teenage girls' overactive imagination, misinterpreting normal seasonal anxiety as prophetic message. Town Council called emergency meeting September 15th to address growing disruption over alleged prophecy threatening harvest morale. Council consisted of 5 members: William Peterson, founder and rancher; Thomas Fletcher, largest landowner; Samuel Morrison, merchant; carpenter James Whitfield; and Norwegian immigrant Lars Olsen. Peterson argued forcefully for action. This 16-year-old girl spreads impossible prophecy about sustained -40 winter that violates established climate patterns. She's causing panic, making families question adequacy of conventional homes we've all built following proven frontier methods. Some are wasting critical harvest time on unnecessary modifications based on her baseless fears. We must stop this disruption before it undermines harvest completion and winter preparation. Fletcher agreed. I've ranched here 4 years experiencing coldest Wyoming winters. We see -20 occasionally during brief January snaps, -25 at absolute worst. Sustained -40 for months is physically impossible, would require unprecedented Arctic outbreak with no historical precedent. Her prophecy is teenage fantasy. Whitfield sided with majority despite being carpenter who understood thermal dynamics. Conventional 8-inch log walls with proper chinking and adequate stove maintain comfortable warmth through normal Wyoming winter. Girl exaggerates theoretical cold that won't occur, but Olson questioned severity of response. Perhaps her dream contains truth even if temperature is exaggerated. What harm in families improving insulation as precaution? Council voted 4-1 to expel Emma if she refused to recant prophecy and apologize for causing disruption. September 18th, Emma and parents appeared before council. Peterson presented terms. Admit your dream was nightmare misinterpreted as prophecy. Acknowledge that claiming knowledge of impossible winter is false testimony causing harm. Apologize for disrupting harvest season and frightening families. Promise silence on this matter. Then you may remain in community. Emma refused despite parents' desperate pleading. I cannot call false what I know is true. Dream was extraordinarily clear and detailed. Sustained -40 winter is coming. Conventional structures will fail to maintain survivable warmth. Families should prepare while they can. I won't deny what I was shown. Then you're expelled from Green River settlement boundaries until April 1st, 1877, Peterson declared. Your parents may remain, but you personally must leave within 48 hours. Return before April 1st and you'll be arrested for trespassing. She left September 20th with wagon containing possessions, tools, and money parents gave her, $70 representing their modest savings. Drove 6 miles to unclaimed land on elevated bench where she could prove up homestead independently before turning 17. Filed claim September 21st, securing quarter section rights. Now needed to build shelter before winter using design principles her dream had shown clearly. Massive thick walls preventing heat loss, earth insulation providing thermal barrier, low compact design minimizing heated volume. Her solution was extreme interpretation of traditional sod house construction. Building walls not 8 inches or 12 inches but full 24 inches thick, using triple-layer sod block technique combined with earth packing creating thermal mass, and insulation far exceeding conventional frontier construction. Foundation was excavated creating partially underground dwelling. Dug rectangular pit, 2 feet deep, 14 feet wide, 18 feet long. Depth placed floor below frost line capturing Earth's slight warmth while reducing exposure to exterior cold. Wall construction began September 22nd using prairie sod blocks cut with breaking plow borrowed from sympathetic neighbor who didn't fully believe Emma's prophecy, but supported her homestead effort regardless of motivation. Each sod block measured 18 inches long, 12 inches wide, 4 inches thick, standard frontier dimensions maximizing strength while remaining handleable weight around 40 pounds per block. But Emma's wall design departed radically from conventional single-thickness sod construction. Traditional sod house used blocks stacked creating single 4-inch thick wall, adequate for normal prairie conditions but insufficient for extreme cold her dream had shown clearly. She designed triple-layer wall with earth packing between layers creating unprecedented 24-inch total thickness. Construction proceeded in systematic phases, building each layer completely before starting next. Inner wall layer. September 22nd through 28th used approximately 200 sod blocks, creating continuous 4-inch thick barrier around entire 14 by 18 perimeter. Laid blocks grass side down, creating interlocking pattern similar to brick. Staggered joints between courses preventing aligned weaknesses. Built wall rising from excavated floor to 5 feet above grade, creating interior wall height adequate for 7-foot ceiling after roof installation. Each block was positioned carefully checking level and plumb. Uneven blocks created structural weakness and thermal gaps. Used level borrowed from neighbor, ensuring each course ran true horizontal. Walls rose true vertical. Work was physically demanding, lifting and positioning 240-pound blocks over 6 days working alone. First earth packing layer. September 29th through October 5th filled 12-inch gap between inner wall location and planned middle wall location. Shoveled excavated earth into gap packing firmly every 6 inches, creating dense insulation layer without air pockets. Air pockets would create convection currents allowing heat transfer. Needed solid earth mass for effective insulation. Total earth packing for 12-inch layer required approximately 15 cubic yards, roughly 20 tons of earth. Shoveled and tamped, systematically working around entire perimeter. Each 6-inch layer required perhaps 2 hours working steadily. Completed 12-inch packing over 6 days brutal solo labor. Middle sod wall layer. October 6th through 12th used another 200 blocks, creating second 4-inch barrier. This middle wall sat on packed earth of first layer, positioned 12 inches outboard from inner wall. Stacked blocks identically to inner wall, grass side down, staggered joints, level courses, plumb vertical. Middle wall served dual purpose. Contained inner earth packing preventing settling and erosion. Provided second thermal mass layer absorbing and blocking heat transfer through wall assembly. Second earth packing layer. October 13th through 19th filled gap between middle wall and planned outer wall location. Another 12-inch gap, another 15 cubic yards of earth, another 6 days of sustained shoveling and tamping. Total earth packing at this point was approximately 30 cubic yards, creating massive insulating barrier. Outer sod wall layer October 20th through 26th used final 200 blocks, completing triple layer assembly. Outermost barrier positioned 24 inches from interior wall, creating finished wall thickness of 4 inches inner sod, 8 inches first earth pack, 4 inches middle sod, 8 inches second earth pack, 4 inches outer sod. Total 28 inches when accounting for packing compression, though design target was 24 inches nominal. Final outer earth protection. October 27th through November 2nd involved piling additional earth against outer wall, creating sloped banking. This banking served multiple purposes: shed rain and snow away from wall base, provide additional insulation and thermal mass, create gradual transition from wall to grade, concealing structure and landscape. Total sod block count for complete wall perimeter was approximately 600 blocks. Cutting, hauling, and stacking 640-pound blocks was monumental solo labor over 5 weeks. Each block required cutting from prairie using breaking plow, loading onto borrowed wagon, hauling to building site, unloading, and positioning in wall. Estimated total lifting approximately 12 tons of sod blocks over construction period. Roof construction November 3rd through 9th used similarly extreme thickness approach. Built timber frame using salvaged poles, creating simple gable structure with minimal pitch, just enough to shed water. Covered frame with planks, covered planks with tar paper, creating waterproof membrane. Then began piling sod blocks, creating living roof 16 inches thick. Double conventional sod roof thickness. Required approximately 200 additional blocks, positioned grass side up, creating continuous earth covering. Grass roots would grow, binding entire roof into coherent mass, while providing living insulation blanket. 16-inch earth roof weighed approximately 8 tons total, requiring substantial timber frame support. Used 8-inch diameter poles as rafters spaced every 2 feet, creating framework strong enough supporting massive earth load. Stone fireplace construction. November 3rd through 9th required professional mason help, but created thermal mass heating system essential for extreme cold survival. Eric and Tom Peterson built fireplace, using field stone gathered from property in nearby areas. Fireplace was substantial, 5 feet wide, 4 feet deep, opening 6 feet high, creating massive firebox. Surround extended 3 feet in all directions from opening, creating thermal battery, weighing approximately 3 tons. This mass would absorb heat during burning, retain warmth, radiate slowly over 8 to 12 hours, maintaining interior temperature without continuous fire. Interior was single room, 14 by 18 feet, with 7-foot ceiling at center. Compact space, minimizing volume, requiring heating. Small but adequate for single person, and thermal efficiency increased dramatically with reduced heated volume. September 22nd through November 10th, she built home working alone with occasional hired help for heaviest stonework and timber framing. Construction required brutal physical labor, cutting and hauling hundreds of sod blocks, excavating tons of earth for packing, gathering and positioning 3 tons of stone. Hired 2 laborers, Eric and Tom Peterson, brothers who'd worked stone masonry, for 1 week helping with stone fireplace construction. Cost $20 of her $70, but created professional quality thermal mass heating. By November 10th, home was complete, appearing as low earth mound, barely visible against landscape. From distance looked like natural rise with chimney emerging from grass-covered dome. Only south-facing door revealed human construction. Travelers occasionally stopped questioning unusual structure. "Why have you built earth mound instead of proper cabin?" they'd ask. Emma would explain about dream and sustained -40 cold, requiring extreme insulation. Most would shake heads, dismissing her as foolish girl, wasting effort on excessive preparation. November brought normal early winter, cold but unremarkable temperatures around 0 to -10. People in Green River felt vindicated that Emma's prophecy was proving false. That expelled girl predicted sustained -40 winter, they'd say at community gatherings. November is normal. Her prophecy was teenage nightmare, not divine warning. Peterson was right to expel her before she caused more disruption. December brought moderately cold weather, -15 to -20. Typical Wyoming winter temperatures. Conventional cabins throughout settlement maintained comfortable warmth with normal heating. By Christmas, people had completely dismissed Emma's prophecy as proven false. Then, January 3, 1877, atmospheric conditions shifted catastrophically. Massive Arctic air mass, unprecedented in territorial records, moved south from Canadian Arctic, bringing coldest sustained temperatures ever recorded in Wyoming territory. Temperature dropped from -10 to -32 overnight, then continued dropping. January 4th morning, -37 degrees. January 5th morning, -41 degrees. January 6th morning, -44 degrees, and holding. -44 degrees sustained, matching Emma's prophesied impossible temperature. At -44 sustained for days, then weeks, conventional cabin heating systems experienced catastrophic failure to maintain survivable interior warmth through physics of heat transfer exceeding frontier construction design limits. George Fletcher's log cabin illustrated progressive failure mechanism. Built with standard 8-inch pine logs, chinked with moss and clay, conventional iron stove. In normal -20 weather, cabin maintained 55 to 60 degrees interior with steady fire. Perfectly comfortable. But at -44 sustained, heat transfer dynamics changed completely. Temperature differential, difference between warm interior and cold exterior, drove heat through 8-inch log walls faster than stove could generate replacement warmth. Fletcher burned wood at maximum sustainable rate, stove running constantly, consuming cord and half per week instead of normal half cord. But interior temperature steadily dropped. January 8th evening, Fletcher's cabin interior measured 32 degrees despite fire burning continuously at maximum. Family, wife and 3 children, huddled within feet of stove, wearing all clothing and wrapped in blankets. Children showing early cold stress. Youngest daughter lethargic. Middle son complaining of numbness in fingers. Throughout settlement, similar progressive failure multiplied. Samuel Morrison's frame house dropped to 28 degrees interior. James Whitfield's cabin achieved 35 degrees burning furniture after exhausting firewood supply trying to maintain warmth. Every conventional 8-inch wall structure was experiencing heating failure. At -44 sustained for days extending into weeks, conventional 8-inch wall cabin heating experienced progressive catastrophic failure through physics of heat transfer that frontier construction hadn't anticipated because sustained extreme cold of this magnitude had no historical precedent in Wyoming territory. Week 1, January 3rd through 9th, averaged -42 degrees, creating initial crisis as families discovered their conventional cabins couldn't maintain warmth despite maximum heating efforts. George Fletcher's cabin illustrated typical failure pattern. Built 1874 using standard 8-inch pine log construction. Horizontally stacked logs with moss clay chinking, gable roof with minimal insulation, single iron stove central heating. In normal -20 Wyoming winter, this construction maintained comfortable 55 to 60 degrees interior with steady half-cord weekly burning. But at -42 average temperature week 1, heat transfer dynamics exceeded design limits. Heat flows from warm to cold at rate proportional to temperature difference divided by thermal resistance. 8-inch pine log wall has thermal resistance approximately R8. At 60 degrees interior and -42 exterior, temperature difference of 102 degrees drove heat through R8 wall faster than stove could generate. Fletcher increased burning to maximum sustainable rate, stove running continuously with fresh wood every 2 hours, consuming approximately quart and half per week, triple normal rate. But interior temperature steadily declined despite maximum effort. January 5th, interior measured 42 degrees. January 7th, 38 degrees. January 9th, 32 degrees trending downward. Family, wife Mary and children ages 4, 7, and 9, huddled within 6 feet of stove wearing all clothing, wrapped in every available blanket and quilt, sleeping in shifts so someone always maintained fire. Children were showing early hypothermia symptoms by January 9th. Youngest daughter Emma confused and lethargic. Middle son Thomas complaining numbness in extremities. Eldest daughter Sarah showing uncontrollable shivering. Samuel Morrison's frame house experienced even faster failure because frame construction provided less thermal mass than logs. Frame walls were 2x4 studs with board siding inside and outside creating hollow cavity, even worse insulation than solid logs. Morrison's interior dropped to 28 degrees by January 8th, despite burning furniture after exhausting firewood trying to maintain warmth. Wife Martha and 2 children ages 5 and 8 were suffering dangerous cold exposure inside their own home. Morrison tried stuffing wall cavities with hay through gaps in siding, creating minimal improvement. Interior rose to 30 degrees, but continued declining. James Whitfield's cabin showed different failure mode, ran out of firewood entirely. Had calculated 6 cords would last winter based on normal half-cord weekly consumption, but week 1 of extreme cold consumed 2 cords at sustained maximum burning, would exhaust 6 cord supply by late January at current rate. Whitfield made desperate decision limiting burning to conserve fuel, allowed fire to die at night, relit mornings, burned only during daytime. Interior temperature dropped to 25 degrees overnight, creating dangerous cold exposure while family slept. Wife Anna and 3 children woke January 9th, showing severe cold stress. Blue lips, confusion, inability to warm despite daytime fire. Week 2, January 10th through 16th, continued -41 average with no moderation, creating compounding crisis as families exhausted fuel reserves and emergency measures failed. By January 12th, 16 families had abandoned their conventional cabins seeking shelter with neighbors whose homes were marginally warmer. But overcrowding created new problems. 8 to 12 people in 12 by 16 cabins designed for families of 4 created condensation, depleted oxygen, spread illness, added stress to already failing heating systems. Fletcher accepted Morrison family and Whitfield family, 11 people total in cabin designed for 5. Combined body heat helped slightly, but 11 people breathing in poorly ventilated space created humidity that condensed on cold walls, forming frost interior, creating additional heat loss through ice accumulation. Week 3, January 17th through 23rd, average -43, showing weather pattern wasn't moderating but possibly intensifying. By this point, every conventional cabin in settlement was experiencing heating failure with interior temperatures between 25 and 35 degrees despite maximum effort. 3 elderly residents died during week 3 from complications related to sustained cold exposure. Samuel Thompson, age 72, died January 18th from pneumonia exacerbated by cold stress. Martha Wilson, age 68, died January 20th from heart failure triggered by hypothermia. Jacob Morrison, age 69, died January 22nd from respiratory failure in 28-degree cabin interior. Children throughout settlement showed varying degrees of cold stress. Approximately 20 children under age 10 had symptoms ranging from mild hypothermia to dangerous exposure. Parents faced impossible situation. Couldn't generate more heat from conventional cabins already burning at maximum. Couldn't evacuate to anywhere warmer. Watching children slowly suffer from cold despite every effort. Emma's earth-sheltered home was performing exactly as her prophetic dream had indicated, demonstrating that 24-inch triple-layer walls and 16-inch earth roof created thermal envelope capable of maintaining comfortable warmth even during sustained -44 exterior temperature that was devastating conventional 8-inch wall construction throughout settlement. Interior temperature measured consistently 54 to 57 degrees with small fire burning 4 hours daily in massive 3-ton stone hearth. This performance was remarkable compared to conventional cabin struggle maintaining 30 to 35 degrees with continuous burning. The thermal mechanics were straightforward physics Emma's thick wall design had specifically addressed. Heat loss through wall occurs at rate determined by temperature difference divided by thermal resistance, R value. Her 24-inch earth-sod wall had estimated R value approximately 40. Fletcher's 8-inch log wall had R value approximately 8, 5 times less thermal resistance. At 55 degrees interior and minus 44 exterior, Emma's temperature difference was 99 degrees. Divided by R40 wall gave heat loss rate of approximately 2.5 BTU per square foot per hour. Her total wall and roof area, approximately 800 square feet, meant total heat loss around 2,000 BTU per hour, easily replaced by small fire burning few pounds of wood hourly. Fletcher's cabin at 32 degrees interior and minus 44 exterior had temperature difference of 76 degrees. Divided by R8 wall gave heat loss rate approximately 9.5 BTU per square foot per hour. His similar 800 square feet meant total heat loss around 7,600 BTU per hour. Required massive continuous fire burning 15 to 20 pounds per hour just replacing heat loss, impossible to sustain and still inadequate for comfort. The massive stone fireplace provided additional benefit through thermal mass effect. Emma would burn hot fire for 4 hours each morning, heating 3 tons of stone to perhaps 200 degrees. Stone would absorb approximately 500,000 BTU total during charging. Then fire would die and stone would radiate absorbed heat over remaining 20 hours, maintaining stable interior temperature without continuous burning. By contrast, Fletcher's iron stove had minimal thermal mass, perhaps 200 pounds of iron. Would heat quickly, but cool quickly, requiring continuous burning. No heat storage capacity, creating stable temperature. The partially underground construction also contributed measurably. Floor positioned 2 feet below grade captured Earth's natural temperature at that depth, approximately 40 degrees year-round. Even with minus 44 surface temperature, Earth 2 feet down remained 40 degrees, creating slight heat source under floor rather than heat sink. Total heating requirement for Emma's home was approximately 5 pounds of wood per hour, averaged over 24 hours, perhaps 60 to 80 pounds total daily. She had cut and stored 20 cords anticipating severe winter. At current consumption rate would use approximately 2 cords total for entire 4-month extreme cold period, ample supply with massive reserve remaining. Fletcher burning cord in half weekly would exhaust his 6-cord supply by mid-February with 6 weeks of winter remaining. Even at current inadequate heating, achieving only 32 degrees interior, was facing fuel exhaustion crisis, compounding cold exposure crisis. January 20th, William Peterson led desperate delegation of 12 families traveling 6 miles through minus 43 cold to Emma's homestead seeking help. Found her earth-sheltered home nearly invisible as grass-covered mound, chimney smoke indicating occupation. Emma emerged from heavy door. Peterson and families were shocked seeing her healthy and comfortable, not bundled excessively, not showing cold stress, clearly thriving in conditions devastating settlement. Emma, your prophecy proved true in every impossible detail, Peterson said through frost-damaged lips. Sustained minus 40 temperatures exactly as you foresaw. Our conventional homes can't maintain survivable warmth despite maximum heating. 3 elderly have died from cold-related complications. Children are suffering hypothermia inside their own cabins. We were catastrophically wrong to call it baseless fear and expel you. Can you help us? Emma looked at desperate crowd. Families who'd expelled her, people who'd dismissed her warning, children suffering from cold, and chose compassion over justified anger. My home can shelter perhaps 10 people maximum. More importantly, I can teach emergency modifications to conventional cabins and help build emergency shelters using thick wall principles that retain warmth. Over following days, Emma directed emergency construction teaching families survival techniques, showed them how to add earth banking against cabin walls creating additional insulation, how to build interior curtain walls reducing heated space, how to construct emergency thick wall shelters using sod and earth, built 3 emergency earth shelters over 1 week housing 26 people whose conventional homes had become uninhabitable. Each shelter used thick wall construction, 18-inch walls, 12-inch earth roof, providing adequate warmth with modest heating. The extreme cold continued through February 15th. sustained -35 to -45 temperatures for 44 days total. Final toll would have been catastrophic without Emma's intervention. 11 people died, 8 from exposure and cold-related complications in conventional homes before emergency measures, 3 elderly who couldn't be moved to warmer shelters. But 53 people survived specifically because Emma's earth-sheltered home and emergency thick-wall shelters provided warmth conventional 8-inch wall cabins couldn't maintain. February 20th community held meeting at church. Peterson spoke on behalf of council. Sister Emma spoke true warning from genuine prophetic dream. We rejected her message because it seemed meteorologically impossible and challenged our assumptions about adequate construction. We called her fear spreader and expelled her for speaking uncomfortable truth. We were catastrophically wrong. Her warning and preparation saved 53 lives. We apologize and ask forgiveness. Emma accepted apology with grace. I don't claim credit for saving lives. The dream showed me what to prepare for. The lesson is that sometimes warnings sound impossible until they prove true. Thick wall construction isn't necessary for normal winter. But when sustained extreme cold exceeds normal experience, wall thickness becomes difference between comfort and death. She lived on homestead 22 years, proving up claim and establishing successful farm. Married in 1882 to Norwegian immigrant named Erik Olsen, who shared her appreciation for practical engineering. Together they refined thick wall design, building several improved earth-sheltered homes. She lived until 1942, dying at 82. Her obituary in Wyoming newspaper mentioned 1876 prophecy and thick wall home that saved lives when sustained. Extreme cold proved conventional construction inadequate. Modern meteorological analysis confirms winter 1876-77 was indeed anomalous, with sustained Arctic outbreak creating 44 consecutive days of temperatures below -35, longest and coldest sustained period in Wyoming territorial history. Modern building science recognizes thick wall benefits Emma discovered empirically. Thermal resistance increases with wall thickness. 24-inch earth wall provides R value approximately 40 compared to 8-inch log wall R value around 8. 5 times greater insulation dramatically reduces heat loss, maintaining interior warmth with minimal heating. The story is about a young woman who received warning others dismissed as impossible fear-mongering, who was punished for speaking uncomfortable truth about approaching danger, who proved message through preparation that saved lives when impossible cold proved all too real. Because sometimes true warnings sound like baseless fear until they manifest. Sometimes youngest voice carries most important message. Sometimes being expelled for unpopular truth is preparation for leadership when truth becomes undeniable. And sometimes the home everyone mocked as excessive becomes the shelter everyone needs when nature exceeds all previous experience.